NBL, honey. To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion sacrifice, courage, kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents, and to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, it is itself a marvelous victory.
I invite us to rise in body or spirit. Let's sing our opening hymn. Online people, sing out too. So welcome to the Unitarian Church. Can you all hear this one? Yes? You're good? All right. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge. My name is Nathan. I'm one of your ministers. I am pleased to welcome you today. A special welcome to anyone who's parking far away from the church or in other such places, as we expect to keep growing and needing parking spots. We needed a lot in two weeks ago. All right, 5 things. Here we go. Number 1, after this service, during middle hour, online people, come on, well, local online people, drive on in. We're going to have Maida, would you wave? Maida's going to lead a discussion about kind of the build-up to Michael Dowd, a discussion of climate change in this world, not necessarily like what we're going to go protest, but how we think about it and deal with it and just where this church is. Is that, yeah, perfect. That's the first thing. Second, we have nothing coming up except on March, well, actually, what's the last Sunday in February? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. 26th, we've got a blues service. Actually, next Sunday, I'm going to do all of it. Next Sunday, we have a guest minister who's a member of this church, Jim Vanderweel. Then you're going to preach. And then we're going to have the blues service. And then we're going to have regular for like a week. And then we're going to have Michael Dowd coming in for an entire weekend. And then he's, we had him on the slideshow. There's a lot of information about him. Then April 1st is the auction. And then April 23rd is someone's installation. But I don't remember who. So there's a lot coming up. Number 3, we made a video for you all.
It's me again, and I bet you're wondering why you're seeing me in 2 videos in less than 2 weeks. Well, I'm about to tell you. Take a look at our floor. Do y'all just sit here and wonder if there's anything that we can do about this? They're dirty, they're breaking, they're just not up to speed with modern design. I have a plan that will fix that problem. Come see. I'm running a flooring campaign. You'll see it here in the narthex. The display may change slightly. But what happens is you pick up a tile. On the back, you put your name and how many tiles you would like to commit to. We have found out that we need approximately a little less than 2,000 tiles to complete the project. So I'm selling tiles, $5 a tile. You can buy one, you could buy 500, that would be great. You can prepay. We take cash, we take check, we take PayPal, we take Venmo. Any way you want to pay, I'll take it. You slip your little payment and or your tile into the box. I'll gather them and keep a track of them. And then what happens is when it's time for demolition, I'm going to call you. And then I'm going to need you to step up so we can step on new flooring. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
So remember that this church is in great shape considering it's a pandemic, and we are only, we were 10% short on our budget, which the former president of the association says is phenomenal in COVID times, but it means we have to find other ways to raise money for things other than operating expenses. So here's what we're going to do. We did this apparently, who here was for Dave Zimmerman's popsicle stick sale? No one? All right. Well, apparently 20 years ago, we needed to raise enough money to build a fence, and he put out popsicle sticks, and you could buy a popsicle stick, and that would be your little peg in the fence, and we were planning to do this for a month, and he did it in a service. So here's the deal. We need tiles for all of that. You can buy them. Online people, just go to unitarianbr.org, go to /give, and just put that note in. Right back there are tiles. You can just take them, write down how many you want to buy. If anyone wants to, what's the math on it? 200 tiles? If anyone wants to buy like 2,000 tiles. If anyone would like to spend $10,000 on tiles, you're set. But you can buy these, and if you want, you could decorate the one. I mean, this won't be the one that's on the ground, but decorate them. They're right over there, and I would love to be able to tell 11:30 people, sorry, 9 o'clock got you. You don't have it. And we even have little cash envelopes, so if you buy it with cash, we have no idea who you are, so you won't get credit. So put your stuff in a cash envelope. For those who don't know, that was Allison Hall. She's our congregational administrator. And she came up with that whole idea, and she was like, all right, we'll do a video, but I'm very nervous about it. She was actually rooting, our website was down for maintenance, and she was hoping we wouldn't have to show the video, but the deed is done, Allison, if you're watching, and don't watch because you're supposed to be off right now. Okay, we're about to do a reading, so I found a reading from 1846, and I think it's nice, but there is some language that I thought about changing, and I decided to just keep it in. So I just want you to kind of have that as a piece of context for this reading that we're about to go into.
We arrived here in New Orleans the day before Carnival. From the time we landed in New England to this hour, we seem to have been in a country where all, whether rich or poor, laboring from morning till night without ever indulging in a holiday. I had sometimes thought that the national motto should be all work and no play. It was quite a novelty and a refreshing sight to see a whole population giving up their minds for a short season to amusement. There was a grand procession parading the streets, almost everyone dressed in the most grotesque attire, troops of them on horseback, some in open carriages, with bands of music and in a variety of costumes, some as Indians with feathers in their heads, and one, a jolly fat man, as Mardi Gras himself. All wore masks, And here and there in the crowd, or stationed in the balcony above, we saw persons armed with bags of flour, which they showered copiously on anyone who seemed particularly proud of his attire. The strangeness of the scene was not a little heightened by the blending of Negroes, quadroons, and mulattoes in the crowd, and we were amused by observing the ludicrous surprise mixed with contempt of several unmasked, stiffed, grave Anglo-Americans from the North, who were witnessing for the first time what seemed to them so much mummery and tomfoolery. The crowd seemed determined to allow nothing to disturb their good humor. But although many of the wealthy Protestant citizens take part in the ceremony, this rude intrusion struck me as a kind of foreshadowing of coming events, emblematic of the violent shock which the invasion of the Anglo-Americans is about to give to the old regime of Louisiana.
The sharing of stones ritual here at the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge is a time in our service where we take pause to come forth, to share the stones, to honor the joy and sorrows of our lives with this community. Visitors are also always welcome to come forth, and if you have stones to share in the chat online, please do so. Our sharing of stones ritual will begin. Those seeking to share a stone, please line up on the east or west walls of the sanctuary. Good morning. Let us say together our chalice lighting words. With hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is a symbol of the power of love.
So, since we're entering into the heart of Mardi Gras season, I want to share something with you that I struggle with every Mardi Gras. And I know that this may cause me to get my Louisiana card revoked. Someone was feeling that before I even said it. But I struggle with the lyrics to When the Saints Go Marching In. So we all know the first verse, right? The saints go marching in, I want to be in that number, and all we end with, Lord, I want to be in that number, saints go marching in. But if you've never dug through the lyrics because you're leading service and trying to figure out how to lead a group of people through this, some are pretty okay. Drums begin to bang. All right, it's kind of musical, it's kind of fun. Stars fall from the sky. Maybe like, asteroids or something nice. Trumpets sound its call. The moon turns red with blood. I couldn't get Lee to put that, so we're not singing Moon Turns Red with Blood today. There is a lot of apocalyptic energy around some of the hymns and songs that we sing around Mardi Gras. And for me, as a raised Unitarian Universalist who's used to squinting and making awkward theological translations, this one is sometimes a stretch too far. And it's not surprising, considering that I was raised within the faith, to expect that I would be uncomfortable with some of these more challenging theological terms. A few weeks ago, we talked about how I struggle with idolatry. I struggle with the concept of idolatry. I mean, maybe I struggle with idolatry itself. I don't know. So we must remember that many of the apocalyptic and Armageddon hymns, many of them that are intertwined with Mardi Gras, they come out of enslavement. And these songs were an act of defiance to say that even an enslaver, even though they can torture and oppressive governments can suck all of the hope out of the lived world, that this joy, this hope is not of this world. And as such, the oppressors have no power to take that away. There's a promise that even extreme suffering in this world cannot have the power over the inherent goodness and greatness within each soul. In some ways, we are far away from that reality, and in some ways, that reality is still with us, and we are completely, inseparably immersed in it. But as someone whose history and identities have shielded me from these realities, it does take some extra exploration for me to understand. So putting the specifics of just that one song aside, today I thought it might be worth us exploring, and because we're entering into the season, to have a little more fun with it with a serious undertone. So today I thought we could play with the question, if there was an apocalypse, would we have a Mardi Gras after it? All right, let's start it. Who says yes? Who says absolutely no? All right, we got one no. Online people, I don't know how you voted. You're a no?
No, I said the scientist said no.
Oh, we have a scientist who said no. All right, so let's name an apocalypse. We have to have a scenario here. What you want? What you got? Climate collapse. Come on, some more. Zombies. Good. What else? An asteroid. What else? Flooded New Orleans. Jesus comes back. What else? A bit. No, we're not. Those who are mic'd, someone who don't hear the mic, someone said pandemic, and yes, that's the undertone of the whole thing. So we'll just say zombies. Okay, zombies. That's what we're gonna say. Section 2, we're going to spend more time looking into apocalypse, and I'm even going to use an expensive term that is not tomfoolery or mummery, which you probably didn't think you would hear walking in today. But for this section, first, we have to examine what Mardi Gras is. For some of you, this is your first Mardi Gras, and for some of you, you have been doing this for generations. So think of today as like your survival guide for the next 3 weeks as the parades increase and the king cake consumption increases, and we get closer and closer to that day. Simply put, Mardi Gras is a celebration before the austerity of Lent. I know this is mostly a Catholic and European idea, but we've been celebrating it here for a long time. My advice to a new person for Mardi Gras is to just turn your brain off for these next few. Right? You got to turn your brain off a little bit. And it's not about whether or not there's a parade or whether or not someone has done something wrong or whether or not all the plastics are terrible for our health and the environment. It's not about whether or not it's a waste of resources or a distraction from the more important parts of life. Mardi Gras is a magic time of year when we can celebrate the joy of being alive knowing that death will come. You cannot celebrate, my theological statement is you cannot celebrate Mardi Gras without also honoring Lent. Mardi Gras is not just costumes, it's not just parades, it's something larger. And it's something that is celebrated by all of us, even if we are unaware of it. And for those of you who dislike Mardi Gras or go out of town for Mardi Gras, that is your Mardi Gras. For those of you who think that this whole thing is silly or don't like the crowds, that is your Mardi Gras. This is the time for you to celebrate being alive however you need to do it. This is your time to lay your burdens down, to lay your worry down, to just enjoy the simple gift of being alive. And so, having outlined Mardi Gras, we will sing a hymn that you will not expect coming, and then we will go into outlining the apocalypse. Let's rise. I want y'all to be honest. Did anyone sing the moon fills with blood? We got one back there. We got a bloody moon. Oh, it is blood. Anyway, okay.
Lee's piano music was amazing.
Online people, someone in the congregation just said that Lee's piano music was amazing. So thank you, Lee. So the next thing we have to define is apocalypse, the thing you all came to on a good Mardi Gras season Sunday. Now this is no small feat, I know. But for us to be able to do a full examination, we have to know what it is. The academic term for what we are talking about is eschatology. The question of eschatology is end times and trajectory of the world. And every religion has an eschatology, and every interpretation of every religion has an eschatology. You're probably familiar with this whole concept that the world is wicked and ending, and Armageddon is coming and only the elect will be saved. That's what often Unitarians think of when they think of the eschatology that they don't believe in. And while it is the loudest eschatology in this country, I refuse to believe it is the most predominant. So, as I said, every religion has an eschatology, and for the longest time, ours, both the Unitarians and the Universalists, had this idea of onward and upward. It's this idea that every generation, the world is getting better, safer, less racist, closer to the kingdom of heaven. Think of the old Theodore Parker quote about the moral arc of the universe is a long one, but it bends towards justice. And I think that we Unitarian Universalists, both within this church and the larger denomination, are in a period of eschatological re-examination. You have to know that most of Unitarian Universalism, but by no means all, ever, well, most of it comes out of white New England. And so much of our theological understandings are informed by the white New England progressive culture and worldview. For a long time, mostly white UUs were happily living this eschatology of onward and upward. Everyone will be redeemed. We are the saviors the world needs. That type of Armageddon thinking. More recently, however, I have seen that to be fundamentally shaken. The pandemic has caused many of us to fundamentally question some of the institutions we relied most heavily on. It exposed the fissures and cracks we didn't want to see, but also made us question our own mortality and safety. I think that combined with new revelations for many and primarily white Unitarian Universalists about how deep-rooted and intransigent systems of oppression are, not just within our country, but within our own faith. Combine that with the ongoing realities of what may happen to our world as climate change gets steadily worse. It has caused many Unitarian Universalists to reevaluate their eschatological worldview. So let me translate. Bearing in mind there is no belief requirement in this church, this religion has always taught that the world is getting better and our place is to make it better. This thinking comes out of much of the founding of white New England for good and for bad. And people with the privilege, like me, with privilege enough to avoid seeing it, have started seeing the violence that has been apparent to people on the margins for as long as there have been people on the margins. And it has shaken the faith of so many. Combine that with the traumatic hurricanes here, wildfires out west, blizzards up north, and people are starting to wonder about whether or not this world can be saved. I do not believe that onward and upward, or the moral arc of the universe bending towards justice, is fundamentally flawed. I don't know if or how that eschatology will be redeemed. I do not think that our eschatology may completely change. Instead, in light of these new realities for many, our eschatology is in a process of becoming challenged and could possibly become more robust, more grounded, more built in with more nuance and more accountability.
Yes.
And maybe our answer can come from what it would look like if we had a Mardi Gras after the apocalypse. So we will play with that after the offering. And because I am apparently terrible at scripting transitions from sermon parts into offerings, we are now shifting into February's shared offering. In a few weeks, we'll be able to update you on how we did in January's dialogue on race giving. This month, we are giving to Blue. It's the Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. It's a national organization. It is a collective of Black Unitarian Universalists who found their experiences to be similar enough and sometimes lacking of support of more diverse congregations. So this is an organization that we supported in the past, and I would love it if we gave a bunch this Mardi Gras season to support. We're doing it also because it's Black History Month, and there's a deeper conversation that we will have, but it's just not Apocalypse Day. So I'll ask you to give very generously as this morning's gratefully. And online people, please give as generous. Online people. Now and for those who are watching later, I want you to not just beat the giving of the people in this room, but I'd like for you to beat the tile buying of the people in this room. The gauntlet has been laid down. This morning's offering will now be gratefully given and received.
That day, the saucers landed. Hundreds of them, golden, silent, coming down from the sky like great snowflakes. And the people of Earth stood and stared as they descended, waiting dry-mouthed to find out what waited inside for us. And none of us knowing if we would be here tomorrow. But you didn't notice it, because that day, the day the saucers came, by some coincidence, was the day that the graves gave up their dead, and the zombies pushed up through soft earth or erupted, shambling and dull-eyed, unstoppable, came towards us, the living, and we screamed and ran. But you did not notice this, because on the saucer day, which was Zombie Day, it was Ragnarok also. And the television screens showed us a ship built of dead men's nails, a serpent, a wolf, all bigger than the mind could hold, and the cameraman could not get far enough away. And then the gods came out. But you did not see them coming, because on the saucer, Zombie Battling God's Day, the floodgates broke, and each of us was engulfed by genies and sprites offering us wishes and wonders and eternities and charm and cleverness and true brave hearts and pots of gold, while giants FIFO-fummed across the land and killer bees. But you had no idea of any of this, because that day, the saucer day, the zombie day, the Ragnarok and fairies day, the day the great winds came and snows and the cities turned to crystal, the day all plants died, plastics dissolved, the day the computers turned, the screens telling us we would obey, the day angels, drunk and muddled, stumbled from the bars and all the bells of London were sounded, the day animals spoke to us in Assyrian, the Yeti day, the fluttering capes and arrival of the time machine day. You didn't notice any of this because you were sitting in your room, not doing anything, not even reading, not really, just looking at your telephone, wondering if I was going to call.
I'll invite us into a moment of prayer and reflection. The God that we know when we see love and kindness and justice and hope, that mystery named, unnamed, believed in, and not, be with us on this day. And hold all those in this space who are trying to hold joy in their hearts despite the fact that the world may be coming down on them. All those who ache for justice, long for someone they lost, wish for a world with more kindness where they didn't feel forgotten. Help us to have reawakened hearts. Help us to know that we are good and kind. Help us to make the world better. Amen. Let's sing this next hymn right where you're seated.
Still will
Here is my not at all joking, totally serious list of how to survive the end of the world.
Get to know your neighbors. Feed them. Let them feed you. Watch each other's kids, grandkids, pets.
Develop the muscle of generosity like you are training for a giving ultramarathon. Share everything you can with anyone who asks, and ask for what you need.
Get in touch with your body. You'll need it, and it knows things. Pay attention to what is happening below your neck.
Tell the truth. Tell it to yourself first.
Sit at the feet of your most vulnerable neighbors and your own most vulnerable places. They have the most to teach you about survival. Listen.
Remember your ancestors and the things they survived. Find the resilience that is your birthright and the courage that made way for your life.
Practice taking risks. Show up in every struggle where someone is fighting for their dignity, because that is how we will all survive.
Learn about reparations and native sovereignty. Double down on exorcising supremacy systems from your soul.
Learn to be tender. Refuse to be hardened. Let your heart be moved every damn time.
Root in the place you are. Learn its history. Learn its geography. Learn its seasons.
Sing a lot and dance. Make art. Make love. Rest luxuriously. Eat pie.
The world is ending and beginning now. We are surviving now. Let us love, let us connect, let us fight like hell for the dignity of each and all.
I started to think about this concept of Mardi Gras after the apocalypse after I went to a parade last year. I was at 625 St. Philip Street in New Orleans. I know this because I looked through my texts. I was almost going to share them with you, but it was a little too mundane. A colleague and a friend of mine was at that same parade, and I found out she was watching the parade 1 block away from me. We exchanged a series of about 15 texts trying to find each other, but we never could. They involved some pictures of buildings, some pictures of the crowd, and we just couldn't connect. At least not until the parade ended. This is one of those where there's 2 parades that came in succession. This was my first parade after the pandemic shutdowns. It was 7 weeks after I had COVID, and I was certain if I got that disease that I've been fighting for 2 years to avoid, I was going to have a Mardi Gras. The disease that I caught, that I was, and I showed up in a mask, and most of the people in the crowd were wearing masks as well. When that first police car came by, I was so nervous it was indescribable. As the parade came, my worry started to melt, and it happened subtly and slowly through the weird succession of poorly thought out floats, drunken brass bands, and throws that I caught and once I got home would regret having ever caught. I didn't realize until last night when I actually went and saw that same parade that I had videoed most of the parade or took a picture of almost every part of it last year because there was some subconscious part of me that thought it would never happen again. When the parade ended, we wandered down the street trying to find this friend. We eventually found them, we hugged, and I realized that it was the first time that I had seen her and her husband since the shutdowns. Since she had her kid, and since we had our kid. It was the first night the 4 of us had been out since our children had been born more than 2 years earlier. Then the next parade rolled through. We watched it, reunited with friends who we hadn't seen because death and fear kept us separate. The celebration in the air was palpable. I have no way to describe it except to say the people who were at that parade, it felt like they had survived an apocalypse and that they were the ones who made it. Last year's Mardi Gras was, in fact, the first Mardi Gras after an apocalypse. And it happened. And it helped me and other people heal. But that is not our first Mardi Gras after the apocalypse. I wrote this next sentence kind of cavalierly, and I realize that it's going to be a little more of a punch. I still remember where I was in Mardi Gras 2006. So I was a director of religious education in Austin, in Texas. And I couldn't go back that year, so I didn't see what it was like. But the people that I talked to who were there, who was at the 2006 Mardi Gras? Yeah. They said it was kind of like a homecoming. A lot of the tourists were scared away or didn't want to come. And so it was like a reuniting survival celebration. When I moved away, I learned that Mardi Gras was my most homesick day of the year. I was devout in college of not liking Mardi Gras. Like, I was certain this is a terrible, stupid holiday, and I want nothing to do with it. And when I was in Austin, I took the day off. I was a substitute teacher, so it didn't really matter. I took the day off, and I made red beans and rice, and I was like ready to go watch the parades when they showed up on CBS. And when 10 o'clock rolled around and nothing was on TV, I was like, what is going on here? So it quickly became the most homesick day for me of the year. So I had scheduled a party at the Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church for that night. And we had a few hundred people show up. And we had beignets and red beans and rice, and people danced to music. And it wasn't just a celebration disconnected from that post-apocalyptic Mardi Gras. This was one of millions of celebrations with tethers from all over the world coming back to Louisiana, all tying everyone together.
The should we have a Mardi Gras question, it's not on the table. It's not a point of negotiation or a bargaining chip. We are going to have it, and that's that. End of discussion. We will not turn off the lights and keep the costumes in storage and ladders in the shed for another year just because we're beaten and broken and because so many of us are not here. In fact, we have to do this because we are beaten and broken, and so many of us are not here. Katrina has proved more than ever that we are resilient. We are together. We are tougher than dirt. We are the soul of America. We embody the triumph of the human spirit. Hell, we are Mardi Gras. It's not up to any of those in power if we have Mardi Gras. It's up to me now, and we're having it. To encapsulate the notion of Mardi Gras as nothing more than a big drunk is to take the simple and stupid way out. And I, for one, am getting tired of staying stuck on simple and stupid. Mardi Gras is not a parade. Mardi Gras is not an alcoholic binge. Mardi Gras is returning to the same street corner year after year and standing next to the same people year after year. People whose names you may or may not even know, but you've watched their kids grow up in this public tableau, and when they're not there, you wonder, where are those guys this year? It's wearing frightful color combinations in public and rolling your eyes at the guy in the office who, like clockwise, year after year, denies that he got the baby in the king cake. And now someone has to pony up the $10 for the next one. Mardi Gras is the love of life. It is the harmonic convergence of our food, our music, our creativity, our eccentricity, our neighborhoods, and our joy for living all at once.
Yeah, I decided not to edit that part about the $10 king cake. They're charging me $40 if the king cake is filled. New Orleans. But have you lost your mind? All right, I'm going to be controversial again. If I want to pay $40 for dry cinnamon rolls.
No!
All right, quick, online people, I'm sorry, bear with me. Quick show of hands. Who here thinks king cake is the eggnog of the season? Okay. I just mean it's a good enough treat, but it's not a year-round treat. There we go. All right, okay. A little piece of background on being a minister. Every Sunday, we have to find readings that reflect on the theme. Most of the year, it's fairly easy. There are thousands of books on Armageddon or hope or prayer, and you find the readings that either guide you towards a conclusion or that elevate the conclusion you already knew you were going to come to anyway. Except for one season, Mardi Gras season. There is almost nothing written about this, both theologically and even in any way that I can communicate. Most of my ministry has consisted of me digging through some of the most useless piles of books that have ever existed to find anything remotely useful for this season. In fact, a minister who is raised in Lafayette emailed me this week and said, "Can you please help me? I'm preaching on Mardi Gras and I got nothing." Not in terms of content, but so first of all, the readings are all self-referential nonsense that someone who doesn't know what it is can use. And the hymns make even less sense, or the music makes even less sense. So we've got no readings and no music that we can reference to sort of build on it. And then I figured something out. The readings about Mardi Gras are everywhere. You just have to know where to look. Any book on Louisiana, especially books about Louisiana that involve trauma or tragedy, because remember, Louisiana is the most traumatized state in the country. We had a sociology professor who was a member of this church who specialized in trauma and disasters. And she said Louisiana was by far the most disastered state in the country. But in any book on a hurricane or a flood or racism or violence or just the plain history of this region, if you flip to the last chapter of that book, the author always saves their Mardi Gras reflections or history for last. They do it because authors want to find some joy or hope or an easy place to end the book. And the easy place to look for is this season. So to say that another way, whatever we do these next few weeks might help us find hope and joy for future generations. That day, the saucer day, the zombie day, the Ragnarok and fairies day, the day the great winds came, and the snows and the cities turned to crystal, the day all the plants died, plastics dissolved, the day the computers turned, the screens telling us we would obey, the day the angels, drunk and muddled, stumbled from the bars, and the bells of London were sounded, the day animals spoke to us in Assyrian, the Yeti day, the fluttering capes and arrival of the time machine day. You didn't notice any of this because you were sitting in your room, not doing anything, not even reading, not really, just looking at your telephone, wondering if I was going to call. Maybe we need what we need in Unitarian Universalism is a Mardi Gras-informed eschatology. Actually, I'm going to pause there. I don't believe that sentence has been uttered in the history of the world. It's online now. Yes. So for the history of the world, you can now say you were here when someone said, maybe what we need in Unitarian Universalism is a Mardi Gras-informed eschatology. Take that one Beatles song that said nothing has never been said. We did it. Maybe we need to be able to be okay having joy amidst suffering and tragedy and not make the two cancel each other out. Or maybe we need to not, and this is going to be me stereotyping our people a little bit, maybe we need to not overthink and try to fix everything that's wrong all at once. When I think about that Neil Gaiman poem, there was both miracle and tragedy happening everywhere. Everywhere. Because remember that every year, someone has had some sort of tragedy, some sort of suffering, some sort of disconnection from someone they love, either through death or through circumstance or estrangement or disagreement or illness. And every year, someone is having a Mardi Gras after the apocalypse for them. And Neil Gaiman says that we all missed all of this tragedy because we were so focused on our own stuff. And we were waiting for you to call. We were wondering if there would be a connection. Well, maybe that call is joy. Maybe that call is letting go of perfection. Maybe that call is this season. Maybe that call is our ancestors celebrating an integrated Mardi Gras back in 1846, waiting with bags of flour. I didn't know they did this. Historian, did they do this? Do you know? Is this like a flour thing? Okay. Bags of flour to throw on any of us who are taking this time too seriously. So the spiritual practice of Mardi Gras for these next 3 weeks is to lay your burdens down, to let go of the things that worry you. They will be back. Don't worry. They will come back. Put them down. Your body needs a break. If there has ever been a time in modern history where we have been holding too much, it is right now. Let your body have a break. And let it go for a little while. I don't care if that celebration is watching terrible TV, eating awful food, making art, something that doesn't fit into the all work and no play mantra that is so much of this country. Every year, some of us suffer, and every year, celebration is still waiting to greet us. We have been given the gift of being alive. It is time for us to celebrate it and celebrate it together. Amen. Let's sing. I invite you to rise in body or spirit.
Since I
future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. Go in peace, go in love. Amen.